Okay, art nerds, for the first video in my little mini series about art supplies from Dollar Tree, we're going to take a look at these Jot art brushes. They arrived, they came, they were purchased pre-wrapped in this plastic sleeve. They seem to have wooden bodies with crimped metal ferrules, and we get 5 brushes for $1. Unwrapping them, these brushes already feel incredibly cheap. There's something about the lacquer on the wood. You can feel every nook and cranny. They're kind of lightweight, they're poorly balanced, and I want you guys to take a look at the hair. That's just kind of a disaster waiting to happen. So I know what some of you guys are going to say down in the comments, that these are from Dollar Tree. I don't have any right to be so picky, but you know what? That's the fun thing about these kind of reviews. Taking a look at these things is figuring out what is worth your buck and what is not worth your buck, and then putting them to a challenge. So it seems like they are camel hair, which is really pony hair. The hair seems really brittle, and they're already shedding. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to try to breathe some life back into these brushes. I'm going to clean them with a mild baby shampoo, actually bought from Dollar Tree as well. And then I'm going to condition them with a little bit of conditioner. There does seem to be a stiffening agent or maybe even some glue right here, but I'm going to try to clean them out, condition them, let them dry overnight. So I will check in with you guys tomorrow. The handles seem to really just be kind of painted wooden dowels with not much thought or finish to them. They do have numbers. They are size. We have a 12, we have a 10, we have an 8, a 6, a 4, and a 2. The metal ferrules appear to be very thin aluminum, and they are double crimped. On the plus side, they seem to be a little bit better made than some Daler Rowney brushes I reviewed in the past, in that the ferrules are not just metal caps with a hole poked out and then some brushes like kind of pushed in. I'll link that review for you guys so you can see just how bad those were. I'm not saying these are better brushes, I'm just saying at least that is not the sin of these brushes. So like I said, I'm gonna go wash them, I'm gonna condition them, and let them sit overnight, let the conditioning kind of soak in, and let's see if we can't revive these pony hair brushes. So I went to wash these brushes, and literally as soon as I got it under or into the water, so just the brush is wet, nothing else is wet, the ferrule popped right off of the largest brush. So these are wet. They haven't been washed. I want to just kind of pre-soak them. And normally with watercolor brushes, they will come to some sort of a point when you get them wet. These are looking pretty bad. So I'm just gonna keep persisting and keep checking with you guys as things develop, but it's not really looking super good for watercolor. I'm sure we can make them work. I mean, people make all kinds of weird, bad art supplies work. I have a challenge where I made a piece of art using makeup from the Dollar Tree. So I know it can be done, but really the question is, should we do it? Should we do it? Is science backing us up here? So I have them all soaked up. Generally, when you get new brushes, you might want to wash them in cold water, and you might want to use either a brush soap, or you can use a very cheap baby shampoo. You don't want fragrances, you don't want extra oils, anything like that. And the reason you would use a shampoo is to wash out any stiffening agents like starch that were put into the brushes to help them maintain their shape and help them kind of survive the rigors of being handled at an art supply store or at a Michael's or on a Walmart shelf. These didn't have any stiffening agents. As I washed them, I also tried to gently pull out, not like yank out, but just gently pull out any stray hairs. That's also just common practice. Even really well-made brushes sometimes have stray hairs. These things shed a lot. And something else I noticed is that the brushes within, or the bristles within the brushes are often tangled and like looped over. This one's really pretty bad. And like knotted and gross. So I'm not really sure why you would go to the trouble of offering watercolor brushes if they were just terrible. But it seems like that might be the case. So Dollar Tree had watercolor brushes like this, which were natural hair. They also had synthetic brushes, and I grabbed the natural hair brushes because I thought, at worst, it's gonna be camel. I've painted with camel before. Camel and pony. Camel is the market term for pony hair brushes. So I'm probably gonna use them interchangeably for these. I've used it before. It's not great, but I'm not familiar with it. So I figured it isn't the worst thing. I figured it would be better for what I'm doing than like super stiff synthetic bristles that hold nothing. And I don't know, I'm kind of considering going back to Dollar Tree and grabbing those stiff synthetic bristles that hold nothing, because those might be a better choice. I don't know. So I'm gonna let the soap sit in these for a while. Then I'm gonna wash them, and then I'm going to try conditioning them. I have VO5 Anti-Frizz Conditioner, and these things are super frizzy. So hopefully they can do something. It can do something kind of tame the frizz on these watercolor brushes. Okay, so I rinsed out the soap and I put in conditioner. And it's good to condition your natural hair brushes every now and then. It just kind of adds and replenishes the bristles. I have other videos where I talk about fixing your bristles. You guys can still see some stray hairs. So basically when I condition my bristles, I roll them against the palm of my hand to kind of reinforce the shape of the bristles. And well, we'll see. These may need a lot of work. So basically I am treating these Dollar Tree brushes the same way I would treat any brand new watercolor brush, particularly any brand new natural hair watercolor brush, from Kolinsky Sable to Black Velvet, because Black Velvet is a synthetic and squirrel blend, to Squirrel to Camel. This is how I treat all of my brushes. So I'm just trying to stay consistent and give them the best chance to really shine as possible. Now inside this larger brush, there's actually a huge glue knob, and when I'm rinsing out the conditioner, I will try to show you guys. I tried to work it out with my fingers, but I think it's just part and parcel with the brush itself. I have never encountered something like that before. At least, no, I don't know that I've ever encountered something like that before. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how these brushes sort of perform. Okay, so these have dried with conditioner overnight. So I'm gonna wash the conditioner out and then take a look at the condition of these brushes. Okay, so these were washed under clean running water. I then shampooed them again with the baby shampoo and washed them out until they were clean. I want you guys to notice how kind of bushy and scraggly these brushes look. I want you guys to notice how many stray hairs there are. I also want you guys to notice how blunt cut these brushes are. In a moment, we are going to compare these to some nicer, higher quality watercolor brushes. We're gonna talk about why these are not good watercolor brushes, and we're gonna talk about what to look for in good watercolor brushes. After that, we're gonna do some watercolor swatches with these brushes to see how they perform. So to the left, we have our Dollar Tree brushes. To the right, we have a variety of brushes, most of which are fairly inexpensive brushes. So I'm gonna zoom in for you guys. All of the brushes except for this one here and this one here are natural fibers. These two are a little bit different. I'll explain in a moment. So these two brushes are squirrel brushes. One is a Creative Mark squirrel brush, so a very inexpensive squirrel brush from Jerry's Artarama. This is a Blick Master squirrel brush. I actually really like these, but I can't find them anymore. So I don't know if they're not selling them or if the Blicks I've gone to just don't carry them. But I want you guys to kind of notice the difference in the fibers. Notice the difference in the quality. Now, there's a significant price difference. I would say this little brush here was maybe $4, which I would consider very inexpensive for a watercolor brush. All 5 of these brushes were $1 each. This brush here was $4 or $5, I'm not really sure. Now the thing is, I've had this brush for almost 10 years. It has seen a lot of wear and tear, and it's still in fairly good shape. And I've had this brush for maybe 3 years. I'm equally abusive with it. And the only real problem here is that the lacquer is starting to peel off because water has gotten in between this ferrule here and the wood of the body. And that's from my own neglect, my own misuse of the brush, not from any manufacturing defect on their part. So I'm going to put these two side by side. I'm going to wet one of these brushes here so you can see how it comes to a point. So again, the two brushes on the left are the brushes from Dollar Tree. Then going towards the right, it is the Creative Mark Squirrel and then the Blick Master Squirrel. I want you guys, they're all wet brushes. I want you guys to notice that the two squirrels on the right, they come to a point. There are no or very few stray hairs. This one has a stray hair mostly from just how I placed it on the plate. Whereas these two here have a lot of stray hairs that are sticking out despite me conditioning and cleaning these brushes. They also have stray hairs sticking out from the tip. If you were to try to use those, you would need to trim them. The fibers used for these brushes are also very coarse. As we've mentioned several times, I believe these are pony hair brushes rather than squirrel hair. Squirrel hair is very soft. Pony hair has a little bit more texture to the hair follicles. You can also see really close up that some of these fibers have sort of broken off, so they're very brittle fibers. I also believe the amount of glue used in these brushes was pretty excessive, because the brush all the way to the left has like an excessive glue knob in the middle of it, which I've tried to work out through conditioning and washing, but it won't come out, so I guess it's just part of the brush now. So I want you guys to also notice the ferrules and the handles. Now the Creative Mark brush, like I said, it has been abused. I haven't treated it very well over the years. Let me twist it though, and you guys can see it does have a solid lacquer handle that is smooth in the hand. The same goes for the Blick Master Squirrel brush, whereas these do not have lacquered handles, they're just painted wooden dowels. And these are the back ends of the brushes. You will notice that the two nicer brushes on the right have been finished a little bit more carefully, whereas the Dollar Tree brushes seem to be kind of unfinished wooden dowels. I've replaced the squirrel brushes with a couple of, we have a synthetic brush and then we have a synthetic and squirrel mix. We have a Creative Mark Mimic brush and then a silver black velvet brush to the right. To the left are our two Dollar Tree brushes, even synthetic brushes, which utilize nylon and Takalon fibers, are cut and designed to come to a better point than our Dollar Tree brushes, which are kind of bluntly cut and not necessarily painting brush shape, but definitely brushy. Now these also have the double crimped metal ferrules and the lacquered handles. Synthetic brushes are typically less expensive than natural fiber brushes, so they are a good alternative if you're on a budget and you want a brush that's going to last a really long time, but they don't hold water for as long. They do not have as large a belly. And if you're curious about these terms I'm throwing around, I have a blog post and a video designed to help get you familiar with watercolor brushes that I hope you guys will check out. I'll link that in the description below. So these Jot Dollar Tree brushes, they seem very poorly made, very cheaply produced using cheap materials, a cheap ferrule, a cheap handle, cheap paint, and cheap brushes, cheap fiber in the brushes. I know it's Dollar Tree, so really, what can you expect? Well, the reason I wanted to point this out to you guys is I do think Dollar Tree does have valuable materials. I like going to Dollar Tree, and I like finding things at Dollar Tree that are useful. I do think there are products there that are great and affordably priced. The plate you also see in this video, which I talk about in another video, is one such item. And I would love to see more economical art supplies offered to the mass market. Your access to art supplies may be severely limited depending on where you live in the country, so I'm always open to reviewing products purchased at places like Dollar Tree, Walmart, and Target. I was excited to see these brushes because I have friends who live in other parts of the country who have seen alcohol markers at their Dollar Trees, so I was kind of hoping that Dollar Tree was really going to start dabbling on the art supply market. And since there are so many supplies being made in China that one can get through AliExpress and through Wish, I know that there's a lot of really inexpensive art supplies on the market, and it seems like a great way for Dollar Tree to buy in. So I wanted to kind of talk about what's good from Dollar Tree, what's bad from Dollar Tree, so that those of you who are on a budget and are shopping for art supplies at Dollar Tree because you're on a budget can know where to safely spend your money and what products to avoid. And although we have not yet done the swatch test, I would think it's safe to say that these particular brushes are a very safe skip. Okay guys, so we are going to give these the best chance they can possibly have right now. We're going to try swatching them with some of my favorite watercolors, Core watercolors. And I am swatching them on a small Canson XL watercolor pad. So I'm going to go grab a fresh cup of water and we'll get right to it. Okay, we have a fresh cup of distilled water, purchased from the natural source, Winn-Dixie. And we're going to use the larger of our brushes. The largest, in fact. Now this is the one that I said has sort of like, oh, you saw that drip. But it has like a hard something, like a nugget. And let's see if we can find the nugget. No, we cannot find the nugget. Not without like completely ruining the brush. Which we're not going to do until we've had a chance to swatch it, right? Alright, so let's load this large brush up with, let's do some Payne's Gray. And you guys see the tail kind of catches on to things. But it does apply paint to paper and it does apply water to paper. So that's, you know, like a quarter of a brush's job. I know you guys are probably thinking, well, what else? But to do it well is the what else. Let's try doing a block using the same amount of care. We would do with any other brush. So being no more careful and no less careful. And right now, I don't think it's like the worst thing in the whole world. I feel like those horrible little Crayola brushes that used to have the plastic bristles are way worse. But this tells me we're gonna have to put this to a full field test. I'll grab another brush. This one does not have a terrible little nugget of knot and glue and despair. So we'll do some thin lines and we'll do some thick lines. This one's a little bit better. But it has lots of stray hairs as well. Let's try doing a straight line. Alright, let's try some of the smaller brushes. And these are kind of bluntly cut. A bit like makeup brushes. But the thing about makeup brushes is they are designed to apply makeup to a three-dimensional surface, whereas watercolor brushes are designed to apply watercolor to a two-dimensional surface. So, you know, some design variations are necessary. Really, the worst part of these is all these stray hairs. And I also know I'm just going to have to put these to a Natto Soup Studio field test. And that's when I'm going to get really frustrated, is when I'm trying to paint a specific thing. That's when you guys enjoy watching me struggle and get frustrated and get annoyed. That's like half the joy, right? I mean, these could be good for like dry brush brushes or special effects brushes, or if you were looking, if you're inking and you want like dry brush or kind of a pebbly texture, something like that, these are not the worst and they're $1. If you're looking for brushes that you're gonna wreck, or you know you're gonna wreck, these are not the worst either. So for right now, this initial review, they're not the worst thing in the entire world. They're not great, but they're $1 for 5. They're gonna come with some problems. Don't expect them to perform like, you know, more expensive watercolor brushes. They can't do that. They're $1, but they are okay so far. And really, the only way we're gonna find out how great or how terrible they are is doing a field test and painting a full piece with them. So I hope you guys will look forward to that video in the near future. Hopefully you'll cheer me on, you'll tune in for it, and you'll watch me get really, really frustrated because I can't imagine it's gonna go well, but maybe we'll learn something together, maybe we'll have a good time, and maybe we'll discover some secrets for these Dollar Tree brushes. So before I say goodbye, I think we're gonna do a little bit of surgery on these brushes. I have a pair of scissors, and normally I would not recommend doing this with your more expensive watercolor brushes. You can ruin them. Even if you think you have a stray hair, sometimes that will completely ruin the brush. I've ruined a lot of really nice brushes that way. But these are $1, so what do I have to lose? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure it's wet. I'm gonna try to pull it into a point so we can really see those stray hairs. And then I'm gonna try to catch both the light and my camera and the focus on my camera. See, it gets all complicated. And just very carefully try to trim these so that they're just a little bit more usable. So that may mean I re-wet. This one's really bad. Look, it looks like somebody chewed the top of it. I'm gonna try to reshape it. It's a little bit better. And let me reiterate, I really don't advocate doing this for nicer brushes. So please don't ruin your nice brushes and then comment all up in my comments like, you told me to do it and it turned out terrible. I'm also not trying to trim these more into a brush shape because I don't really know what I'm doing in that regard. I'm just trimming off any stray hairs that might oh, this one's a wreck. Look at this. This looks like it's been chewed by a cat. I mean, it's, oh! Once a day, taken with or with. Alright, sorry about that. This one, it feels like really, really rough. The fibers are really rough. They're actually kind of knotted. They're like looped over and knotted on themselves. So there's not much I can do for this one. And then finally we have this one here, which is cut like a Crayola brush, i.e. just straight across the top. So we're gonna trim, and you need non-shaky hands for that. Trim off the stray hairs. All right, so I will see you guys in another video when we put these Dollar Tree Jot watercolor brushes to the field test. I have another video coming up in the really near future where we take a look at some of the synthetic brushes from Dollar Tree as well. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was entertaining. I hope it was also useful, helpful, and informative. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you click the thumbs up button and consider subscribing for more great art tutorials. I'll see you guys again really soon. Bye guys!